Denny Hamlin just had the worst week of his career, and he didn't even crash a car. Something happened this week. Not one thing, 3 things. And all 3 of them are connected. People inside NASCAR are talking about it. Some are calling it Hamlin's most dangerous week in years. Others say he brought it on himself. Here is what makes this strange. Nobody saw all 3 things coming at the same time. And once you understand how they connect, you will understand why people inside the garage are worried right now. We are going to walk you through everything. What happened, what Hamlin said, and why people close to the team think this is not over yet. Here's my take. This isn't really about Hamlin losing control. It's about something bigger happening around him. Do you agree, or do you think Hamlin brought this on himself? Tell me in the comments. It started on a Monday that looked completely normal. No big news, no press conference. Just Denny Hamlin doing what he always does between races. Then one by one, 3 different things happened. On their own, each one would have been a normal NASCAR story. The kind that gets talked about for a day, then forgotten by the weekend. But that is not what happened this time. People close to the team say something felt different almost right away. One person close to the situation said it simply. It felt like pressure that had been building for weeks finally found somewhere to go. That word keeps coming up. Pressure. Not one bad moment, not one bad mood, pressure. The kind that builds quietly in the background until something small sets it off. Hamlin has had hard weeks before. Arguments, headlines, strong opinions. None of that is new for him. What is new is the timing. All 3 things landing at the same time, in the same week, with his name in the middle of every single one. So was this just bad luck, or something that had been building for a long time? What makes this week different is not just what happened, it is how fast it spread, and how many different parts of the sport got pulled into it at once. Reporters, former teammates, rival team owners, even fans who normally stay quiet started picking sides within hours of the first headline. One veteran NASCAR insider said this was the first time in years he had seen this much reaction hit one driver in a single stretch of days. Not one angry post, not one heated answer, a full week of it, building on top of itself with no real break in between any of it. Inside the garage, people are reportedly split on what this even means. Some see this as a driver simply being himself, the same outspoken version of Hamlin the sport has always known. Others believe something deeper is going on, something that has been building under the surface for much longer than just 1 week. That disagreement matters because it tells you something important about the size of this. Whatever happened here was not small. It touched enough nerves in enough different places that people who normally stay completely silent felt the need to say something publicly. Reporters defended their reporting in long replies. A rival team owner pushed back hard, in public, by name. Even people with no direct connection to Hamlin found themselves talking about him this week. Underneath all the noise, there was a clear pattern starting to form. Each new development did not replace the one before it. It stacked right on top of it. By midweek, what started as one story had quietly become 3 completely separate fronts, all hitting at once, all involving Hamlin directly, with no sign of any of them slowing down or going away. People who have followed Hamlin's career closely for years started noticing something else too. He has handled criticism before. He has handled controversy before plenty of times. But rarely, if ever, has he had to handle this many different fights coming from this many different directions in such a short stretch of time. That is the real reason this particular week stood out so much from every other rough patch he has had in the past. It was not one fire burning. It was 3, all at the exact same time, each one quietly feeding off the tension the others were already creating around him. And by the time the dust even started to settle, almost everyone close to the sport seemed to agree on one thing. This was not normal, even for a driver as outspoken and unfiltered as Denny Hamlin has always been. Some longtime fans even started comparing it to other rough stretches drivers have gone through in the past, the kind that either make a driver stronger or slowly start to wear them down over time. Nobody seemed totally sure yet which direction this one was heading. What made it harder to read was how differently each side of the story was being told. Depending on who you asked this week, Hamlin was either a driver finally standing up for himself after years of biting his tongue, or a driver letting frustration get the better of him at the worst possible time. Both versions were being repeated loudly, often by people who had never agreed on anything about him before. Even people who normally avoid drama entirely found themselves pulled into it. Crew members from other teams, former drivers turned analysts, people who work behind the scenes, fans and rarely comment publicly on anything. All of them, at some point this week, ended up weighing in on some part of what was happening to Hamlin, and the strangest part, according to people close to the situation, is that none of it seemed planned. There was no single moment where Hamlin sat down and decided to take on 3 fights at once. Each one appears to have started small, almost accidentally, before growing far bigger than anyone expected. That is what made insiders nervous, not the size of any one issue on its own, but the way all 3 kept escalating in parallel, each one pulling in new people, new reactions, and new headlines almost every single day this week. By the time most fans even heard about the first one, the second was already spreading, and the third was just getting started. There is also something worth noting about Hamlin specifically, something people who cover him closely keep bringing up. He has never been a driver who stays quiet just to avoid trouble. He says what he thinks, even when it costs him support, even when it gives critics more to work with. That habit has earned him respect from some fans and frustration from others for years. This week simply turned that habit up louder than ever before on 3 separate stages at once, with 3 completely different audiences watching closely. Reporters watching one fight, a rival team watching another, and fans, drivers, and analysts across the entire sport watching all 3 unfold at the same time, often in the same conversation. By midweek, that combination had created something rare. A driver who was winning more than almost anyone else in the sport, while simultaneously becoming the center of more public conflict than almost anyone else in the sport in the exact same stretch of days. That kind of split, winning loudly while fighting loudly, is rare enough on its own. Having it happen on 3 fronts at once is rarer still. So now, here is everything that actually happened, one fire at a time, starting with the one that caught fire first, and the small, strange detail that started the whole thing. It started with rubber, not a crash, not a fight, just rubber left over on the track from earlier practice. That tiny detail is what lit the first fire of the week. Hamlin had just won 3 races in a row, all from the pole, something nobody had done since 1981. NASCAR has rules built to help drivers who qualify badly, things like restarts near the front or extra help during a caution. A well-known reporter wrote online that the qualifying system might not work anymore, suggesting the sport go back to a random draw instead. A second reporter agreed with her right away. Hamlin saw both posts and did not stay quiet. He fired back hard, listing every rule that already helps drivers at the back of the field, then asking if they needed even more handouts on top of that. He said randomness has no place in real sports. Later that day, on his own podcast, he went further, explaining that cars qualifying early often drive over leftover rubber, hurting their grip, while later cars get a cleaner track. To him, that proved the system was never even biased toward the front in the first place. It was never really about rubber. It was about Hamlin standing alone against 2 respected reporters, refusing to back down even 1 inch. But that fight was not even close to the loudest thing happening to him this week. While that argument was still spreading online, a second story was already building, and this one was personal. For years, Hamlin had one of the closest partnerships in the sport. His crew chief sat on his pit box, calling strategy that helped them win more than 20 races together, including 2 Daytona 500s. Then, late last year, that crew chief left for a rival organization, in a role putting him right back near other teams' competitive secrets. Hamlin's team filed a lawsuit claiming he left with sensitive information worth years and millions of dollars. He denied wrongdoing, saying he returned everything asked. The fight dragged on for months until a rival co-owner publicly suggested Hamlin's team was just trying to hurt them. Hamlin fired back online, accusing his former crew chief of stealing information and getting paid more to do it elsewhere. When reporters later asked directly if he felt betrayed, Hamlin did not dodge it. He nodded several times, then ended the interview right there. That nod said more than any quote could. But while fans were still reading into it, a third fire was already burning, and this one was about his own car. Hamlin has looked nearly unstoppable this season. Multiple wins, multiple poles, near the top of the standings. Instead of respect, that brought accusations that his manufacturer simply builds a faster car. Hamlin responded bluntly, insisting every team races the same car, under the same rules, checked the same way. To him, the suggestion otherwise was an insult to everyone on his team working hard for that success. So now look at where this leaves us. 3 fights, 3 completely different fronts, all at once. A public rules war with 2 reporters, a personal betrayal lawsuit involving a man he once trusted completely, and doubt thrown at the very car carrying him toward a possible championship. None of these things happened by accident in some quiet, isolated week. They hit Hamlin at almost the exact same time, while he was already carrying more pressure than at almost any other point in his career. People close to the team believe that pressure built from chasing something he has never fully had, a real spot at the top with outside doubt circling him constantly, every challenge to his integrity, every legal headache, every online argument landed directly on a driver already carrying a heavy load. That is the real story underneath all of this, not 3 random arguments landing in the same week by coincidence. 3 separate pressure points hitting the same person at the same time while the entire NASCAR world watched it happen live. Once people inside the sport started connecting those dots, the conversation changed completely. It stopped being about what happened and became about something more serious. What happens to Hamlin next? Some insiders believe this is exactly the kind of stretch that eventually breaks drivers down, even strong, experienced ones. Outspoken drivers who refuse to stay quiet often pay a price for it later, in relationships, reputation, and how rivals treat them going forward. Others see it completely differently, pointing out Hamlin has never avoided conflict, and they do not expect that to change now. To them, this was never a real crisis at all. It was simply Hamlin being Hamlin, unfiltered and direct, the same way he has always been. Fans online have split sharply into both camps. Some call this stretch the most honest version of Hamlin they have ever seen. Others call it a clear warning sign, worried this much conflict hitting all at once could start affecting him where it matters most, on the track, every single weekend. What is clear right now is that none of these 3 stories are finished yet. The rules debate quietly returns every time qualifying produces a surprising result. The betrayal lawsuit is still working through the courts, with new filings every few weeks and no clear end in sight. And questions about his car's performance will only grow louder if he keeps winning at this pace. Hamlin himself has shown no sign of backing down. If anything, people close to him say he seems more locked in than ever, treating each fight as one more thing to prove people wrong about. But staying locked in under one kind of pressure is one thing. Staying locked in under 3 all at once, all completely public, is something very few drivers in this sport have ever had to handle for this long. So now you know all 3 fires currently burning around Denny Hamlin. A public war over the rules, a personal betrayal that cut deep, and growing doubt thrown at the very car carrying him toward a possible championship. Whether this turns into the moment that defines his entire season, or just becomes another hard stretch he powers straight through, depends on what happens over the next few weeks. And right now, almost nobody close to this story is willing to bet against him just yet. So here is the real question worth asking. Does all of this make Hamlin look weaker than before? Or does it actually prove he is exactly as tough as everyone already believed he was? Tell me what you honestly think in the comments below. And if you want to see exactly where this story goes next, make sure you are already subscribed, because with Denny Hamlin, this story is far from finished.